You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
A mid-August edition of the show before the show, the official podcast of minor league baseball from MILB.com. Hi, everybody. I'm Tyler Mon, Sam Dykstra in New York City. Hello, Sam.
Hi, Tyler. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. You?
I'm good. All things considered. Which
good.
Yeah, we always have to throw in at the end of every sentence right now.
Yep. Certainly is the case for the foreseeable future for all of us, it feels like. You there tuned in. Let us know how you're doing. Get in touch with the show, podcast at MILB.com. Your questions, your thoughts, your comments, your concerns, all of it. We will give you the access that you so ardently desire to this minor league baseball podcast through that email address. And we welcome you into this week's episode of the show. Got a lot coming up for you today. We now have official baseball games in a minor league baseball stadium, as crazy as that is. And we will talk about that coming up here in just a couple of minutes. But a big thanks to you all for tuning into the show, wherever you found us at MILB.com/podcast or wherever you download your finest podcasts. Like we said, you can get in touch with the show. You can also give us a rating and a review and a subscription. And these days we've kind of gone back and forth, plug this at times, and other times I've forgotten to, but we really are in such a weird and transitional period in terms of the way we see all sports right now. But I think it's a good time for all of us to have conversations in sports about the things that maybe we just haven't really delved into that much in sports. So if you have questions, have you ever thought to yourself about a minor league roster? Okay, well, what does this mean? Or how does this transaction go down? Or what is a player to be named later? How does a trade like that get executed? Get in touch, podcast at MILB.com. Sam is the one with all the answers, and I will awkwardly lead into all of them with questions.
I was going to say, you just volunteered me for opening up a baseball
Sam will
roster.
do all of the work, but you can email us.
And I will email us at this address, and then Sam will do. Tyler has a lot of answers, and I would love to do a mailbag episode of this show.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know a lot of other podcasts do that, and it's nothing that we've ever really needed to dive into too much, just because minor league baseball, even this summer, it felt like there was always something happening every week, and there was always something to talk about, and that's still the case, and who knows what will happen in the next week to bring up as a topic for next week. But if you just have like a generic question or a general question you've always wanted the answer to, like how much money is actually thrown into a trade when it's cash considerations, stuff like that, ask us. And if it's general enough and evergreen enough, maybe beginning of September or something like that, or at the end of the major league season, we can get to all those. Or if we get enough of them for next week, maybe we'll do it next week. We'll see where the news takes us, as it were. But so much going on in baseball right now. And obviously, even without a minor league season, there's still a lot to talk about with rookies and what's happening in minor league parks, which we'll do a ton of today, which I'm really excited about. So shoot any and all questions you have over to us on Twitter, over the email address. I don't know, shout it out the window. Maybe the wind will carry it to us, get it to us somehow.
Do it, and we'll have some fun with it. And with that, we're going to dive into this week's episode of the show before the show. Last night, we saw baseball being played, televised nationally, internationally, really, on the field at a minor league ballpark in 2020. And the Toronto Blue Jays, who are calling Buffalo home for the 2020 season, walked off with a victory over the Miami Marlins in 10 innings. I turned that game on just in time to see Bo Bichette go off with a home run and a ridiculous defensive play. Like the next half inning, his homer was a 3-run shot that came in the 6th. But the Blue Jays walk off over the Marlins 5-4. That game held at Salem Field in Buffalo. And we, of course, had a lengthy conversation about not the challenges necessarily, but really more the opportunity of being able to convert the AAA home of the Buffalo Bisons into a major league facility just not even 2 weeks ago now. Was it 2 weeks ago? I guess in total 2 weeks ago. But Mike Buchkowski, who is the president of Rich Baseball Operations and the head of the show in Buffalo, Mike joined us to talk about that whole process. All of that came down to last night and getting that operation off the ground successfully with major league caliber lighting and a new infield that was put in and advertising and all that type of stuff. Giant Black Lives Matter billboard on the outfield wall, which I thought was fantastic. The Blue Jays, the liner on top of the dugout and in the dugout, there's an actual term for those, and now I can't remember what it is, but making it look as though, oh, that's the Rogers Center looking dugout. It all last night came together, and the Jays played at Salem Field and took home that victory. Toolshed, a couple of weeks ago, Sam's fantastic column, dived into what Salem Field could mean in terms of its park effects, how it plays, and how that would translate to a major league level of play. Tell us a little bit about that column and what, especially for Jays fans who are going to be watching a lot of games from Buffalo, what this ballpark could look like for their team this season.
Yeah, so as Tyler touched on right there were a lot of renovations that went on, as you guys heard on the show a couple weeks back. Big ones were the lights. If you watch that game, they actually brought in some equipment. They changed all the light bulbs in the park entirely, mostly for the broadcast, I think, but they also saved for player safety. They played minor league baseball games there. I don't know how much of it was player safety, but it looks better on the broadcast. But they brought in like other stanchions, which were apparently supposed to be used at the canceled Field of Dreams game this year in Iowa. They just like shipped those to Buffalo. So there are a lot of changes in that way, but it's still a ballpark. It's still in the same spot. It's still got the same dimensions. So how does that play as a stadium? Is it a pitcher's park? Is it a hitter's park? So I dove into the park factors. I've done this pretty much every offseason for a while now, or I updated every few off seasons for the AAA leagues, AA, Class A Advanced, and Class A. So this was just taking that data and then plugging it in to, how does it compare to other major league parks? So Buffalo, by international league standards, is maybe a hair on the pitcher-friendly side. If we look at what the run factor is, 100 being average, Buffalo is 96 on the run factor. So it's just a hair below there, not too wildly so. It's not like Norfolk, which was 85, or Indianapolis, which was 86, or going the other way, Charlotte was 123, which checks out if you've ever watched a game at Charlotte and seen the ball fly out of that stadium. Buffalo is pretty fair. It's a hair on the pitcher side, but even the home run factor isn't a hair below that at 94. So I reached out to Buffalo hitting coach Corey Hart, who's been with the club for a couple of years now. When I talked to him, he was actually traveling with the Blue Jays, so he's up with the big league club right now. And I was trying to figure out, why is that? What is it about Buffalo that plays just under average? And one of the things he pointed out was it's really difficult to go deep to right field in that park. The wind is coming off Lake Erie. If you go to Google Maps right now, type in Salem Field, Buffalo, you will see, the outline of the stadium, and right there in right field is Lake Erie. The wind is coming off that. You even saw that a little bit last night in Buffalo. If you were watching that game, I think Teoscar Hernandez tripped over the bullpen, which is in foul play because he lost it a little bit in the wind. The wind is going to play, and it's usually coming essentially right to left or in from right field. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for left-handed hitters to drive the ball out there. I think even Kevin Biggio said that. It's going to be really difficult to do that. So you'll see more guys with right-handed power, like Bo Bichette last night, or Brian Anderson, who hit the first home run in Salem Field in over a century, first home run in Buffalo, I should say. Salem Field is not a century old, but their first home run in Buffalo as a major leaguer in a century. It's going to be a lot more favorable to right-handed hitters than it is left-handed hitters. Compared to some of the other places that the Blue Jays will play in this year, Washington is probably the most hitter-friendly. Miami is the most pitcher-friendly. Buffalo is right in that mix. It's about, if I was going to use a comp, I would say maybe the Trop, but it's outdoors. the Trop is a little bit more pitcher friendly than certainly Yankee Stadium or Fenway Park or Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. So it's going to be one of the more pitcher friendly places the Blue Jays played this year. When we're looking at how that lineup works, obviously a lot of players for the Blue Jays have played it in Buffalo before. But there's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., if he can learn to lift the ball this year, but part of his major problem is that he's hitting the ball on the ground a lot. If he can lift it, he shouldn't have that big of a problem hitting the ball out to left. Bo Bichette shouldn't have that problem. Let's see what happens with somebody like Travis Shaw, who walked off last night for the Blue Jays, but he'll be having a little bit more difficulty. Maybe Kevin Biggio would, as compared to Toronto, which is definitely more home run friendly and a little bit more hitter friendly overall. Part of that being the roof is closed, balls are going to sail a little bit more. There's no wind involved on days the roof is closed. So we could see a slight depression of offense in this Jays season overall, but when we're talking about basically 24 games, anything is possible. So for all we know, in a sample that small, we could see more offense in Buffalo. But given the way the park factors have played in previous years, at least according to the International League, we should expect it to be a little bit more of a pitcher's park than we would have had the Jays been able to play in Toronto all season long.
So enjoy the vantage point from a much different center field cam and all those types of things that come along with playing in a AAA ballpark, Jays fans. I also, last night, I would have been very interested to know the reaction. Hyun-Jin Ryu started that game last night, so there were probably a lot of people tuning in Korea. I believe every one of his starts gets national televised play in South Korea. It'd be kind of cool to see what the reaction was from a fan base in a different part of the planet that probably hasn't watched a whole ton of games in Buffalo.
Yeah, well, that's one of the interesting things about that park is that they did such a good job of it that you probably couldn't tell. If you were, I'm sure there are Korean fans who are big, Major League Baseball fans. They know, hey, Toronto plays indoors. This is not indoors.
Right.
But if you were just to show that park and say, yeah, this is where Toronto's playing this year, you'd be like, okay, this looks good to go. That looks ready. So they did a really good job at turning that place over, making it look big. As we know, as we talked on the podcast 2 weeks ago, that place was originally designed with the hopes that it could someday become a major league stadium. It didn't work out in either of the expansions to come after it opened in the late 80s, but it put on a good show in night one, and I'm sure that'll continue as the Jays continue to make it home.
Very cool stuff. At least getting a little bit of minor league baseball incorporated in this weird 2020 campaign. And we continue along in our opening segment this week. We've been doing these stories for the last couple of weeks now, and that will continue throughout the month of August in an attempt to highlight some of our best fans across the minor league baseball landscape. And if you believe that you can claim to be MILB's biggest fan, you can tell us why at the MILB Fan Lounge, created in conjunction with MILB partner Brand Activation Maximizer, for a chance to be a special guest and share your story on this very podcast with me and Sam. We've had some fun with these so far. We, of course, had Josh on last week to talk about ice cream helmets, and I got to write a thing about hats. No surprise.
Yeah, no surprise at all. And what started this whole thing, which, like, you got to sign the story. Let's not say, like, you just threw it out there and it turned into a story. This was a story that was going to happen. But you threw out a tweet saying, hey, hat Twitter, if there is a hat Twitter, looking for nerds like me with MILB hat collections, give me a reply or tag somebody with one. And you got ratioed in the best way possible.
In a very good way. And I knew there was a hat Twitter, and if I said, hey, is there a hat Twitter? I knew that'd all blow up. I know the people I'm dealing with.
That's just a lesson of social media.
Being a hat person myself. Yeah, exactly. No, the ratio was fantastic. I don't even know what that tweet ended up with, but it was upwards of 250 replies or something like that. And it was cool because the thing that came out of it was a very wide spectrum of people who collect hats or like hats, or are, the difference between collectors and hoarders, I think sometimes can be, and I know that was a quote that Paul Caputo gave to Josh Jackson talking about his ice cream helmet collection. There were definitely a lot of people that replied that even I, a man who owns north of 125 fitted caps. Even I looked at it and thought, maybe you should get a handle on that. That seems excessive. But there were also a lot of people who replied who were just kind of getting into this. And it was really cool getting a chance to talk to a lot of them. So I told 4 different stories in this piece, talked to 5 different people for the stories. 2 guys who I started the story with, Brendan Panikar and Stephen Postma, who are both Canadians who went to university together, as they would say. We would say college, just translating the cross-border American-Canadian English. They attended school together, and in the early 2010s, they came up with this idea, you know what we should do? Every year, we should do a hat trade. They used to go across the border to, oddly enough, Buffalo Bison's games. And that's where they kind of started getting into minor league baseball. And as they told the story back in 2012, 2013, somewhere around then, they one day between classes just got stuck looking at minor league hats and logos and team names and all that stuff online and decided they were going to set up this annual hat exchange. So that's a thing that they do nowadays every holiday season, which is super cool. One guy who I absolutely love talking to is D. Rice, who is in now Northern California, just moved there this spring from Las Vegas, where he had lived for 10 years. And D is actually from Dayton originally. And if you know anything about the minor leagues, the Dayton Dragons are maybe the most successful franchise in recent minor league baseball history. They've sold out every game since their inception in the year 2000. D had actually moved away from Dayton before the Dragons arrived. Left, moved to Atlanta, where he spent a lot of his formative years. Then he was on to Vegas. And it really wasn't until he started kind of researching, he's a Cincinnati Reds fan, started researching, prospects and learning about guys who were coming up and all that, that he started following teams and realized, hey, we got a team in Louisville and we got a team in Chattanooga or wherever it was at the time. And of course, a team in his hometown of Dayton. So got into following Reds affiliates, then living in Las Vegas. He said he used to go down to Cashman Field, go to games when the then Las Vegas 51s were playing in downtown Vegas. Last year, he actually got season tickets at Las Vegas Ballpark for the Aviators' first season. So D and his girlfriend Michelle would go to games there. And then this year, strangely, got to see a game in a minor league ballpark before the pandemic hit. The Cincinnati Reds played the Chicago Cubs in a series, brief 2-game spring training series the week before everything shut down for the pandemic. But it was really cool because now he's living in Northern California. Said he's already checked out, hopefully at some point being able to go to San Jose Giants games and check out some of the other teams that are around where he lives now. But there are just some really fun stories. Anna Lindahl, who is a Tacoma Rainiers fan and a Seattle Mariners fan, her collection is almost entirely Rainiers hats. She's got 36 different Rainiers hats. It was just such a great smattering of the different types of collections, the different things that people look for. Kevin Clone's a guy who travels around the country for work, and basically on a weekly basis throughout a normal minor league season, he can go to games in any corner of the country because of where his work takes him. So he's got dozens of hats and jerseys and autographed baseballs and all kinds of memorabilia. And it just shows the range of minor league fans. And those were 4 stories that I got to tell. There were hundreds of people who got in touch, which is really cool. I know even, I messaged some people on Twitter and said, hey, I'd really love to be able to talk to you for this story. Let me kind of get everything together and we'll figure out hopefully a time for an interview. And then didn't get a chance to interview him because there was so much to cover. And but it was a fun one. This is a really good one to put together.
Yeah, and that D. Rice story that you mentioned in there, I think might have been my favorite too, just because it speaks to somebody who has moved around the country and touched, you have his story about how he found minor league baseball, and it's just like, oh wait, the Reds have other affiliates and they're in all these other places. Well,
right,
I should start following them. And oh wait, I moved to Vegas and they're an A's affiliate now, so I'm going to start following the A's a little bit more. And now he's moving to NorCal and he's going to be close to San Jose and he's probably going to follow Giants. Like, it's just spreading the gospel and seeing how that goes around. I mean, you go on MILB.com right now and you see a map and you can see how widespread minor league baseball is. It is really difficult to go to certain corners of this country and not be close to a team and just become a fan of that team, whether you're a fan of the major league affiliate or not. And there's the great story you have in here about D turning to his girlfriend and just being like, oh, that's Gavin Lux. We saw him come through here. Like,
right.
At its most simplistic form, that is what makes minor league baseball great, is being able to say, I knew him when. It's one of the great things about this podcast and having certain guys on, and
Yeah.
they make their Major League debut, and we're like, we had him years ago.
We knew him before you did.
Yeah, right.
We're just the annoying hipsters who saw a band 5 years before their first big song. That's us.
But we get to do it professionally. We get to be professional hipsters, which, as somebody who lives in Brooklyn, this is the dream.
That's the dream for you.
It's clearly being a professional hipster, but no, that just having that, it diluted to that simplicity, and just hats being the medium to tell that story, and having these collections grow and grow. And the stories you chose here are great too, because there's such different stories of people traveling all around the country, or like you mentioned with Anna and her Tacoma collection.
Yeah.
Like, I know the Rainiers have a bunch of different hats and they're pretty good at that, but they usually have such a down the middle identity. Like, it's going to be that Rainiers logo, which you can see on beer cans as well. And it's pretty identifiable, but to see this many different hats is insane to me.
Yeah. Her collection, just from the picture she sent me, you can see a Tacoma Cubs hat, a Tacoma Yankees hat, a Tacoma Tugs hat, which is maybe the cutest logo in the history of minor league baseball. If you go onto the Rainiers team store, they have the Tugs hat, and it's a little smiling anthropomorphic tugboat. It's the cutest. And those are all just Rainiers hats. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it makes me think, Tyler, because I know you have certain minor league teams where you have almost every hat. Probably Myrtle Beach is up there, I'm sure.
A bunch of those.
But for a team that you don't have in your collection, and you can have upwards of a dozen hats, like what team would you choose? If I said your next 12 hat purchases all have to be from one minor league team.
Tacoma, well, although I have to have it not in my collection. I do have a couple of Tacoma hats already. Man, that is a very good question. I don't have, D Rice has a couple of Vegas hats. He said he wasn't real big on the Aviators, the main logo, the Aviator head logo, but he loves that LV logo, which I am very much on board with him in that account. And also the Reyes de Plata, the Copa logo for Vegas. Vegas has some really good ones. It's difficult because the teams that I love that have a bunch of different hats, I probably already have one of theirs. Like Hartford is a no-brainer, but I have like 4 Yard Goats hats already. I don't know. I gotta think about this now.
I mean, that's fair. I did throw in the wrinkle of like you can't have their hat already, which for you takes a lot of teams out of it.
That is true. A lot of teams are out of the equation. The thing that I think I loved most about getting a chance to talk to all these people for this story, and Dee brought it up, and I think it was Steven, one of the Canadian guys who I talked to, who brought it up. The amount of times, it was Steven, because I'm actually looking at the quote right now. The amount of times that these fans talked about loving the way minor league hats start conversations. That is the thing that I love maybe most about minor league hats, because I share that same experience where, you're in a grocery store, you're walking through a terminal in an airport, or you're at a coffee shop or whatever, and somebody sees your hat and says, oh, hey, is that a blank hat, whatever the team is? It's either they're from that place, or they knew somebody who went to a game there once, or they had a friend who played there, something like that. Like it really does have a way of sparking conversation in a way that a major league hat, and not just Major League Baseball, a hat from a team in one of the 4 major sports leagues would not spark a conversation. That's what's so cool about minor league baseball, is it still localizes things in a way that no other sport does. And I love that virtually everybody that I talked to for this story said some version of that. Yeah.
And we can't say this enough. I know Ben has been very big about this on Twitter, but like, there's no greater way to support your local minor league baseball team right now than to get a hat. I mean, I had a great mail day over the weekend. I got a new Missoula Paddleheads hat.
Fantastic.
I was very excited to show Tyler on Monday when he first signed on.
Very
Tyler was like, hello, good morning. I was like, hi, I got this hat over the weekend. It's that one, if you've seen it online, you know exactly what I'm talking about, but it has the Montana outline, and then it has the moose fishing. So if you look at it, you would probably think the team is some sort of fish, because the fish is in the foreground, but it's the paddleheads, the moose is in the background. I love it so much. I've actually never been to Montana, but I love the outline of the hat. It looks great. It's black. It's going to work in so many different ways. And I'm sure it's going to be a conversation starter somewhere. Once I'm able to go back out to bars and stuff many months from now, I'm sure there's going to be somebody from Montana coming up and asking about it, or somebody just being like, I've never seen that before. What is it? Or maybe somebody who will recognize it. I mean, because the minor league landscape is so large that if somebody gets a Missoula Paddleheads hat, I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about. And that's just one hat that I'm very excited about. There's any number of ones. Tyler, we talked about it this week. Richmond came out with faux back ones.
Yeah.
Which were, one looked like it was Rocky the Flying Squirrel, but it's a little bit different animated squirrel. But then there was another one that had the Virginia outline inside of an R, which looked really, really neat and straight out of the 50s or 60s. Every minor league team has something like that. So whether it's your local team or a team you've always been a fan of and followed from afar, there's no better way right now to support them than doing that, especially being from afar. If we're going to talk later with both Ben and Joe Bloss of MILB.com about ways that other minor league teams are able to generate some revenue right now, keep the wheels turning and stuff like that. Not every team can do that right now, but there are ways of supporting, and this is a great one.
Yeah, it's a good way to show your love and your support for minor league teams and try to help out a little bit in a really difficult time. And that's the story is up at MILB.com right now. And that'll do it for our opening segment on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show.
As an official partner of minor league baseball, Nationwide is here from life's first pitch to the seventh inning stretch. Whether you're looking for protection for your house, car, pet, or small business, Nationwide offers a wide range of products and support to make sure you're getting the right coverage for your specific needs. Visit nationwide.com for more information on how we can help take care of what you have today and plan for what's ahead. Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company, Columbus, Ohio.
A lengthy pre-interview conversation with Benjamin Hill, and now we join Ben for our interview conversation. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Tyler, and hello, Sam. It was nice to have another talk that was for paid subscribers only, and you can, if you're on an elite tier of Show Before the Show listenership, you can hear everything we say before we get on the air, and it's very provocative,
very spicy. Behind the velvet rope.
Yes,
that's where you find it in the premium lounge for the Show Before the Show listeners that doesn't exist. So we welcome Ben in to discuss some stories that are up on or coming to the site. One of which is really great. We've been obviously so starved for baseball in minor league ballparks this year. We're not getting it in the form of minor league baseball. I actually wrote a story the other day in which I talked to a guy who was one of the very few to have seen baseball in a minor league stadium this year before the pandemic hit. He went to an exhibition game at Las Vegas Ballpark the weekend before everything started shutting down. And a little ways northeast of there at Lansing's Cooley Law School Stadium, the home of the Lansing Lugnuts, that franchise has come up with something really cool to get some baseball in this summer. Ben, tell us about the Lansing Lugnuts and their Lemonade League.
Yeah, the Lansing Lugnuts Lemonade League. Yeah, there's actually baseball going on at Cooley Law School Stadium. The Lugnuts have created their own league, and I think it's a really cool endeavor because as much as it's obviously restricted in what they can do given the circumstances surrounding the country and the world right now, the fact that they've made the effort to create something, brand it, get their entire operation involved in putting live baseball on the field is really cool. So it's the Lemonade League, so let's start with that. The name, refers to the old cliche, the time-honored cliche, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. So obviously the lemons that the Lansing Lugnuts got, and we all got, was 2020, COVID-19, the cancellation of the season. So the Lemonade League, is their chance, their attempt to make something out of it. So what they did is it's a two-team league. So I guess that's stretching the definition of league when you only have two teams, but I guess that's all you need for a league, just two teams to play each other. And those teams are the collegiate Lugnuts versus the collegiate Locos. And the Locos are usually the Lugnuts Copa de la Diversión identity. So these are obviously two pre-existing identities that the team had the uniforms for and were able to do. But instead of professional minor league players, they have players from local colleges playing for the collegiate Lugnuts and the collegiate Locos. And the capacity at the ballpark is 100 fans. They all watch the game from the Good Hops Bar and Grill, located in left field. So the entire sellout crowd is 100 people, all in one set area of the stadium. Every ticket is $12. Games are streamed on a variety of platforms. And so, yeah, as much as it's obviously a lower key operation than having 70 games and being part of the Class A Midwest League and its 16 teams and all the travel and all the promotions and everything that goes along with it, I think it's really cool that Lansing has put something together, created lemonade out of their lemons, a literal lemonade league. And I think from what I can tell from talking to the team and putting the story together and looking at what they have going on social media and the games themselves, I'd say it's been a successful endeavor.
And this feels almost like a bubble of, things we're seeing at other sports, the NBA being in Orlando, the MLS was in Orlando. They just finished up there. NHL right now are playing in 2 Canadian cities. This is just based in Lansing. Like you said, it's just 2 teams, but guys are wearing masks on the field, off the field. How are they kind of controlling for this and making sure it's going to work in terms of keeping all the players healthy and allowing everybody to play every day?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, being in the so-called bubble helps. There's no travel in this league. So, I mean, that helps a little bit that it's a very finite group of people, without traveling to other ballparks and visiting new populations and that sort of thing. But yeah, regular testing, temperature checks, same with the fans, making sure that the fans who show up are good to go. And I think, a little bit of, hoping for the best. I think the way we all are, that, this is an experiment that can hold. It's a 20-game schedule. They're more than halfway through it. Their games through, I believe, August 22nd. And, so far so good. The Locos and the Lugnuts. I'm not sure who's winning in the standings, who's in first place and who's in last, last being second place.
Ben, the morale of seeing baseball in minor league stadiums this year has been a boost for a lot of people, whether it's alternate training sites for major league teams or, the little things we've seen with high school games or renting out ballparks for, fans to use them for batting practice. Did you get a sense of kind of what this means to, especially the Lugnuts staff, but even the community, just having something, even though it's not normal and there aren't tons of fans there and it doesn't feel like a regular summer, it feels still like there is something in just these little moments that gives people a little bit of hope?
Yeah, I think there really is for fans and staff and anyone who follows along through the broadcast. Jesse Goldberg-Strassler, who's been the Lugnuts broadcaster for a long time, is doing these games. And if you know Jesse, he brings a lot of personality and expertise to a broadcast. So these games are really presented well. I think from food and beverage to ticketing to sponsorship, you can still be involved in running a league and running a team. And I think that is really important right now. For the fans, it's been pre-existing season ticket holders who got first crack at the very limited amount of tickets. And, those are some of the most hardcore fans in general and the ones who are missing baseball. And, I was talking to the team's general manager, Tyler Parsons, and, he was saying, look, once they realized, with health restrictions and talking to the county health department, that they can only bring 100 people in to a ball game, it's $12 a ticket. Do the math. I mean, they're also buying food and drink, but, the amount of revenue you're going to bring in for any given game is very low. So obviously this is not a major money-making endeavor. They do have merch and, they do find their ways to make money. But, I think that it came down to that, like, well, is this worth it? And I think the answer goes beyond, I mean, you're not going to do anything to outright just lose money or just, take a huge financial hit. But I think a lot of this comes down to that. We can do this, so let's do it. It's something we can do. I think a lot of people are feeling that right now. Like, what can I do that kind of establishes some sense of normalcy, that makes me feel active, that makes me feel engaged? And, as Tyler pointed out to me, Tyler Parsons in Lansing pointed out to me, this is going to be the team's 25th anniversary season. They had a lot of bobbleheads, giveaways, anniversary logos, theme promotions around celebrating this anniversary. So if you can at least do something to show, hey, in this, milestone season, we're still open, we're still operating, we're still there. I think that psychologically is an important thing.
And one thing I want to ask about real quick, just because this is what stood out to me when they first announced it, is the yellow balls they're using.
Oh, right. We didn't get into that. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there any reason for it, other than it's just a kitschy thing. They're playing 7-inning games. There's a home run derby if the game is tied. So there's a lot of interesting things they're just playing with because why the heck not?
Yeah,
it's a weird year, but the yellow balls stand out to me.
Yeah, yellow balls. You think of, Charlie Finley with the A's back in the 70s when he tried to get, I think, orange baseballs established at the major league level. It didn't happen, obviously. But yes, your Lemonade League, you think of, the color yellow, lemons, so yellow baseball is part of the branding. They have not done the post game, and all games are 7 innings. They have not had a one-on-one home run derby to establish a tie. It's funny that the post game home run derby came about because in the 2018 All-Star game, that Midwest League All-Star game that happened in Lansing, I happened to be at that game. It was on the cusp of ending in a tie with no way to really establish a winner. And there was this, I remember being at that game and sensing a lot of anxiety among the staff of like, oh, this is going to be so anticlimactic if we host this All-Star game. And then we just have, we have to call it a tie after, I think, whatever their max innings were, 10 or 11. And fortunately, that didn't happen. But I think with that experience in mind, they had thought after that All-Star game, we need to have a rule in place, like a post-game home run derby, to ensure that we never end in a tie. And that experience at the All-Star game where a game almost ended a tie, I think they brought that to the Lemonade League and said, you know what, we never want to see a game end in a tie. We've been thinking about the concept of a post-game home run derby, so let's apply it to the Lemonade League.
One thing that is embedded in the story, something that's available in Good Hops, the restaurant, is the BBP&J burger, which is it's a quote new spin on Elvis's favorite sandwich. Elvis Presley, of course, very famously loved peanut butter and banana. This is peanut butter, banana slices, a chef's own bacon jam on a burger, and I obviously very much would like to try this. I don't know how, peanut butter and bacon on a burger I've done before. Adding a banana in there, fruit on meat is it's a dicey proposition. It's probably very good, but there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I agree. Elvis, if it worked for Elvis, who'd say it wouldn't work for the common man. And he was I don't know if he was a gourmand, but he certainly was a man with an appetite, and he loved those kind of sandwiches for a good reason. But I do think it speaks to the Lugnuts, even with just these 100 fans, they're all going to be there in the restaurant, and trying to raise the per caps, trying to, get fans to spend more money. You're going to do more high-end stuff. And again, just the idea that, hey, if we're going to be doing this, let's be creative. Let's roll out some stuff. Maybe it was originally created for the 25th anniversary celebration for a normal season, but hey, we can still sell it. We can still be creative. We can still have a sandwich inspired by Elvis. And I think that's what, in the world of minor league baseball, those are the things that make everything seem a little more normal.
I like it. Ben, there is another piece you're working on, inspired in part by the Toronto Blue Jays setting up shop in Buffalo this year. There are major league histories in a lot of minor league cities, and people probably would not expect that. Obviously, it's major league history that dates back well over a century in most cases, but especially many international league cities at one time were home to major league teams. And Buffalo, I know, had a team in the Players League and a team in the Federal League, and so maybe it's not necessarily just the American or National League, but there are major league histories in a lot of these places. Tell us about what you're working on with that story.
Yeah, I was kind of casting about yesterday, thinking like, oh, I need a creative story idea, and was kind of coming up short with some of my ideas. But of course, there was a lot of people talking about Buffalo and a lot of social media discussion about Buffalo. And one of the things you often saw was, for the first time in 105 years, Buffalo is hosting a major league game. And that got me thinking about Buffalo's prior major league history, and then thinking about the International League in general, of which the Buffalo Bisons are a part. Of those 14 teams, I think half of them, have a major league history of some kind or another. So I've gone through the league as it currently stands now, looked at all their cities, and I'm writing about those major league histories, which is, in the case of these International League cities, a lot of them have major league histories in the form of the American Association of 1882 to 1891, the National League established in 1876 and still going. Yes, the short-lived Players League with 1890 only, the Federal League, a third major league that started it lasted for 2 seasons in 1914 and 1915. So the history can get a little complicated, but I'm doing my best. And you just, when you're looking at baseball from the 19th century, early 20th century, it's real easy to go down some rabbit holes, find some crazy facts. Looking at the last time, there was Major League Baseball in Buffalo, prior to, the Blue Jays playing there, going back to the Federal League team of 1914 and 1915, that 1914 Federal League team in Buffalo, the Blues, a man named Charles Porret was on the roster, and he's the only Major League Baseball player to have listed as being born at sea. Kind of thing, the Atlantic Ocean. It's tough to find. I was looking for more information on Charles Porret, but when you go back to the last time Buffalo had Major League Baseball, you had a guy who was born at sea on the roster. That sort of thing. Going back, in Columbus to the 1883, 1884 Buckeyes of the American Association, and you've got guys on that team. A dude who apparently inspired the term southpaw. A man named Eddie Cannonball Morris, a deaf player who prompted umpires to invent safer out calls, allegedly. The inventor of the chest protector, stuff like that. It's just crazy when you go back to that era of baseball. And so I'm just kind of exploring that, writing about little capsule write-ups of Major League histories in Columbus, in Louisville, in Indianapolis, Rochester, Syracuse, Toledo, what have you. And, all inspired by Buffalo, a return to Major League action after 105 years.
I just want to point out, this is according to a Huffington Post story from 2014, and it appears to have been lifted from a Quora Answers thing, so it's probably not accurate at all. But this says if you were born on an international flight, and this is a law that comes obviously stubbed off of international sea travel at one time, you would the baby would take the citizenship of the mother. So in case you're wondering, well, if I was born in international airspace, to whom do I belong? The country that your mom's a citizen of. So there you go. Now you know. Ben, what else is going on? What else is coming up? How are you?
I'm doing all right. As we were talking in our show before the show conversation, I'm getting a little antsy right now. I've been inside too long. It's too hot here in New York City. I need to get out to the water. I think I'm feeling like a lot of people are feeling, a little antsy. But hey, I'm not here to complain. I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. I'm writing about the Major League history of international league clubs. I'm writing about lemonade leagues, and I'm going to have some fun stuff next week and fun stuff every week, and try to keep it going. And what is going on? We're coming up on mid-August. We're coming up on what would have been the final, 3 weeks of the regular season minor league baseball campaign.
Insane.
That is a little hard to fathom that we'd be actually at this point in normal times thinking at least vaguely about the offseason being imminent. So what? It feels like it's just hard to contextualize things right now. But, we're doing the best we can. And I think all of us, the world, America, MILB.com, and I think we've done pretty good at trying to stay active and engaged and finding a lot of fun stuff to write about and talk about and, just keeping it going, really hunkering down in our little corners of the universe and finding fun things.
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. Ordinarily, we would be getting an email right around now that would say, hey, just heads up, 6 weeks away from the AAA National Championship game. And to be at this stage and nearing the midway point of August is what a world in 2020. Benjamin Hill, you can find on Twitter at Ben's Biz. The stories are up on the site right now. And great stuff as always, Ben. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, good talking to you, Tyler. Good talking to you, Sam. And indeed, we will talk next week. It'll still be August.
Our minor league writer spotlight this week. For the first time, we get a chance to catch up with Joe Bloss, who's got a great story. If you're a Boston Red Sox fan, a Pawtucket Red Sox fan, a future Worcester Red Sox fan, the Woo Sox, then you'll enjoy the conversation to come. Joe, what's going on? How are you?
I'm great, guys. It's great to be on and ready to talk a little Paw Sox.
Well, it's great to have you, man. This is obviously one of the toughest situations in minor league baseball this year. Belongs to the Pawtucket Red Sox. This was supposed to be the farewell season for a franchise that is near and dear to a lot of New Englanders' hearts. Obviously, Sam, we've talked a lot about the history of that franchise and McCoy Stadium and all of it. And this year, they were supposed to get a chance to say goodbye. And then a pandemic hits and robs a lot of minor league franchises of a chance to see their fans and engage with them. But it's so different in the case of the Paw Sox this year. And yet, now serving as an alternate training site for the Red Sox. They are doing a lot to stay involved, keep themselves connected with their community, including welcoming people into essentially a full-service restaurant. So they're hosting the alternate training site stuff. They're also hosting fans outside of that time. This is really cool with, we just talked with Ben about the Lansing Lemonade League. This kind of falls in those same lines. It's a lot of lemons in the world in 2020, but some teams are figuring out how to squeeze some lemonade out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, with McCoy closing after this year, it's a good way to keep both employees, working in this restaurant and fans connected to the team with these sim games being broadcast over Twitter and Facebook and letting fans into the stadium. Maybe these are people who've been there for years and years and years. They've never actually been on the field. So this is an opportunity for people that might not have existed in a normal year. So that to me is pretty cool.
And give us a sense of what this restaurant is like, because in your piece you talk about how basically the Red Sox have agreed that they're not going to have alternate training site workouts go past 3. The first reservation at McCoy is at 5:30, so there's like 2.5 hours to get a minor league baseball field, which basically has to be up to MLB standards at this point, to serve as an alternate site, and turn that into a restaurant. So take us through what the restaurant looks like and what they're serving, and how, like you said, some of these employees are becoming servers, they're becoming busboys, they're getting employed in other ways than they would be on normal game day.
Right. The days where they have the restaurant open are just really madness at McCoy Stadium. So let's say, for example, on a Saturday, they have a sim game in the early afternoon, late morning, and they'll try to wrap that up around 3:00. So the players are leaving, and the employees are really scheduled to be there right on time, right on schedule when the players leave, because they don't want to have too much overlap with people in the stadium, because they don't want, still, even with all this, safety is the most important thing. So they're basically setting up the entire restaurant almost from scratch each time they're open, each night they're open. So they'll set up, they'll drag chairs and tables out onto the outfield, obviously keeping them distanced from each other to keep things safe. And then it's a reservation system online, and folks start coming in at 5:30, and then it's just as if you're at your favorite restaurant that's been open for years. It's just you're on a baseball field. So the menu, it touches on some baseball classics. You can of course get a hot dog, you can get a hamburger, things like that. But then they have a little more of a local flair, let's say with New England lobster rolls or things like that, and a little more of an advanced menu. And it actually has worked out great for them, because, in previous years, the executive kitchen at the ballpark is usually producing in a given day food for somewhere between 300 and 500 people in terms of players, coaches, media, luxury suites. And here in the restaurant, they get about 500 people a night if all the reservations fill up, which has been the case pretty much every night. So it's somewhat of a smooth transition for them. In terms of food service. In terms of employees, it's kind of the complete opposite. It's worked out, but it's a lot of people who didn't have food service experience. I talked to the two broadcasters from the team, Mike Antonellis and Josh Maurer, and they're both waiters, and they've been trained pretty extensively and pretty quickly to become, food service professionals. And they do a lot of things that I think me and you, at least for me, I've never worked in a restaurant, so probably things that I take for granted. And they've kind of started to try to master the craft.
Yeah, it is interesting, Joe, reading the descriptions of this life from those guys. Josh Maurer says, quote, "You've got a protein and carb load as best you can. The dining, it's a physical challenge. It really is." He, a couple of weeks ago, walked 7.9 miles, according to his phone. This is such a 2020 story in that, in one respect, it's probably tremendously awkward. And I know even Josh describes it when he goes up to tables. He pretty much says to them, "Hey, I'm usually the radio broadcaster, but you're kind of stuck with me down here now because of this." On the other hand, even despite that weirdness, I would imagine it feels good to have something to do. What was the sense that you got from the front office, just as far as, at least having a calling this year in a weird summer in which your regular calling has been put on hold? What does that mean to this front office right now?
I think they love it. I think it's a great opportunity. You know, not every team has been fortunate enough to be able to have an operation like this. There are people, unfortunately, in minor league baseball who have been furloughed, and this is an opportunity for them to still be working, to still be, you know, working together. I think there's a lot of camaraderie there, and it's an accomplishment to be able to, you know, have everyone sort of pitch in, learn new roles, learn new skills. And I think they've kind of really, you know, jumped at the opportunity and enjoyed it. I think part of that comes from the reaction that they're getting from fans, and I guess if you want to call them customers that are coming in through the restaurant, that a lot of these people have enjoyed it just as much as the employees, because let's face it, it's a unique situation that maybe we wish we weren't in. We'd love to be playing baseball, but to be able to still celebrate the building that all the baseball comes in and still sort of you know, make something happen, I think it is worth the effort, and they've seemed to really enjoy it.
And one other one I have about just the transition here. You quote Anton Ellison here that's saying, on the last serving of the night, we're walking around that grass, making sure there's not even one French fry. So we've done a lot of talking about the restaurant, but that turnover the other way of getting from a place in which all these people have eaten, they've sat in chairs, they've created mini divots maybe necessarily, and then we have the alternate site roster coming in the morning and having to play on that surface. We know how, you know, nitpicky groundskeepers can be during any scenario, even during the regular season, in which basically practice happens there in the morning before a game. Going the other way from a restaurant back to a game surface, what is that transition like? What did you get out of that?
Right. It's interesting because I think the most dynamic perspective on this would probably have been the groundskeeper, and Matt McKinnon is the groundskeeper in Pawtucket. And I wanted to talk to him, and I basically couldn't because he's so busy, and basically, you know, it's an around the clock task for him, where, you know, if when there's games being played, you know, it's still a busy job trying to maintain that field. And now with the restaurant getting taken down, you know, 2 or 3 nights a week, that just adds a whole new wrinkle and a lot more traffic on the field that he has to deal with. But yeah, like you said, Mike had a comment that they basically have to make sure everything's gone. Everything has to be up to standards of you know, an MLB field when these players show up the next morning. And it's a lot of work. It certainly is. And from what I can see, these tables are not very light. They look pretty heavy, like pretty big picnic tables. So it's a workout to get it started, a workout to run a restaurant for a few hours every night. And it's certainly still a workout to take it down.
This is a really great story that's up on the site right now at MILB.com. Joe Bloss, you can find on Twitter at JT Bloss. And Joe, this is really great stuff, man. It's been obviously such a brutal season for all of us in so many ways, but being able to find and cover these stories has been really cool from our team at MILB. And so thanks for coming on. It's good to finally have you on, and great stuff in this one.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Saying goodbye on this week's episode of the show before the show. We'll be back with you next week, of course. Before we go, Sam has this week's Nationwide Prospect Fun Fact.
Yeah, so we're going to stick with a rookie theme here because Major League Baseball is happening. Some of these guys still technically prospects, so we're going to be following the Rookie of the Year races pretty closely this year. And I think if there were to be a favorite on either side in the AL or the NL, the AL is probably Kyle Lewis, somebody who got off to an incredibly hot start for the Seattle Mariners. But in the NL, and this is going to be the focus of our fun fact this week, I think the favorite right now might have to be Jake Cronenworth, who has done a tremendous
Rake job. Cronenworth, as Padres fans have started calling him.
It's been really cool to see him come through because he came over from the Rays last offseason, kind of felt like a throw-in. He was involved in that Esteban Quiroz story that we talked about a couple weeks ago with Gerard. But that was really the Tommy Pham trade, it felt like. But the Padres also picking up Jake Cronenworth, who's been able to play multiple positions. He's been able to cover first base incredibly well for Eric Hosmer while he's been out. Now he's played a little bit of second base. He has shortstop in his repertoire as well. That's what he primarily played last year at AAA Durham. He actually won the International League batting title last year. There are a lot of good things about him. He feels like somebody who over the course of his career was going to maybe be an average player at best, but he's been more than that so far. So here's the fun facts. Through August 11th, which is the day before we're recording this, he leads rookie position players in average. He's batting .361, in slugging percentage 750, OPS 1.128, and WRC plus 205. He's been twice as good a hitter as the average major league hitter this year. It's been really special to see Jake Cronenworth do this. He's a big reason why the Padres have been as good as they've been this year, because they can keep plugging him in, and he continues to produce at multiple spots. He's not going to kick Fernando Tatis Jr., who might be the best player in baseball this year, off shortstop. But if they can get him time at second base, get him some time at first, maybe get him some time at third to spell Manny Machado every now and again. And, oh, by the way, he did pitch some last year in the Tampa Bay system. I don't think they're going to throw him in the bullpen, but the option is there. Jake Cronenworth could be a really fun Rookie of the Year candidate the rest of the way. So something to keep an eye on over there in San Diego, and what has really been an exciting season for them in what is turning out to be a loaded NL West, between the start that the Rockies are off to and the Dodgers are still lurking around there and still the prohibitive favorites, but we'll see how the next 3 quarters of the season goes. So keep an eye on Jake Cronenworth. That's what I'm going to say going forward.
And at one time, pretty promising amateur hockey player too, Jake Cronenworth. He can do anything on any sort of athletic field of endeavor. It would appear. Must be nice to have skills at sports. I'm not one of them. So that'll do it. Big thanks everybody for joining us this week. For Sam Baxter, I'm Tyler Mall. We'll talk to you next week.